Dr Megan Woods.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. And I want to speak specifically to my supplementary order paper, which addresses clauses 34 and 42. But before I do, I just want to pick up where my colleague, Bruno Tarakatni, just left off with his pronunciation lesson around Otakaro. But my Ngāpuhi colleague sitting next to me tells me that the translation is either that it means dodging weeds or a place where people laid. Play. So we're hoping very much that it is the latter and not a place where people are dodging weeds. So it's very much, but that could just be, as Rono would say, Ngāpuhi business going on there. But thank you very much for that service beside me to Calvin Davis. But if we're going to talk about the amendments that I are putting up, and the amendments to clauses 34 and 42, and I am grateful for all the other parties in this House supporting these amendments because I think they are important to the people of Christchurch. And it's not so much that we think that there is imminent threat of anyone doing anything heinous to Hagley Park, that jewel in the centre of our crown, but it's really about our responsibility as Cantabrians to protect that treasure. That generations of people before us have done it, and it is our responsibility in this generation to continue those protections and ensure that that place, that magical place in the centre of our city endures and remains there. And in order of how we do this, there are a number of instruments that are used in this legislation, and what it does is it ensures that the management plan of Hagley Park is the primary instrument and isn't overridden by anything else that might be in this legislation. So we have amendments that ensure that where there are any inconsistencies between a regeneration plan and the parks management plan, then it is the parks management plan that prevails. So what that means is that if anyone wanted to put up any kind of change of use to Hagley Park, they would have to go through a process that was business as usual. The same process that they would have had to have gone through in 2010 in order to have a changed use to Hagley Park. But, Mr Speaker, as we are drawing to the close of this stage, I would like to reflect on subpart 1 and part 2, which is clauses 12 to 23, and really pay honour to the people that made submissions and really were the voices behind the charge for a locally led recovery in Christchurch. One of the things as a Canterbury Member of Parliament that you could not hear was that the time was right for Canterbury people to take charge of their own destiny, that the time was right for us to have a locally led recovery. And this needed to be balanced with the Crown's need to endure within our region, within our city and within its province and its obligations and its responsibility to our regeneration. And I think that the changes that we have made get this balance better and that we can have that, and there will be some satisfaction that locals can take charge of their destiny as well. But I also do, in the later stages of this committee stage debate, want to pay tribute to all the Christchurch and Canterbury-based members of Parliament across this House from various parties. I'd also like to note, by a rough count, I think there's probably about 8 or 9 of us in this House today debating this legislation as Canterbury members of Parliament who weren't here when the SERA legislation was enacted in 2011. And I think that speaks to a number of jobs that some of our colleagues have gone on to do, one of course being an important part of this legislation in the Mayor of Christchurch City, Mayor Leanne Dalzell. We also have a number of colleagues that worked tirelessly in those immediate aftermath of the earthquakes in 2010 and 2011 who have since retired from all parties, and I'd like to honour the contribution that they have made to our city and our province over the last 5 years. And Mr Chairman, I think that what we've set up in this legislation, particularly the grunt of it that lies here in part 2, in terms of how we propose regeneration plans, how it is we get the anchor projects moving, how it is that we now grasp that thorny issue of the residential red zone and capture some of the creativity and the innovation that we have seen flowing through our city in the last 5 years lies in this legislation. It is our responsibility as Cantabrians, and it is our responsibility of parliamentarians parliamentarians to make sure this works. Labor is happy to commend this legislation to the House.
Members